Have you ever wondered why some men, no matter where they go, always seem to hold a kind of magnetic pull? Why women lean in when they talk? Why their presence feels heavy, powerful, and unshakable? It's not their looks, it's not their money. It's something deeper, something women can sense but can't fully explain. That something is rarity. You see, most men today blend into the background. They follow trends, chase approval, and seek validation like it's oxygen. But a rare man moves differently. He doesn't compete for attention, he commands it. He doesn't beg for love, he inspires it. He doesn't need to prove his worth. His worth is already carved into his being, like stone that cannot be moved. And here's the secret most men miss. A woman doesn't crave a man she can control. She craves a man she can't fully predict, a man whose value doesn't bend to her moods or approval. This is why rarity is so powerful. Think about it. What do we desire most in life? The things that are scarce. Gold, diamonds, time, opportunities. The less available something is, the more precious it becomes. Now imagine if you became that in her life. Not desperate, not overgiving, not constantly available, but a man with purpose, discipline, and control, someone she must earn. Do you feel the shift? Can you sense the power in this idea? Because the truth is, when a woman sees you as rare, her whole psychology flips. Instead of you chasing her, she starts chasing you. Instead of her testing you, she starts proving herself to you. And instead of love feeling like a one-sided battle, it becomes a game where she invests more and more just to keep you close. But let me be real with you right now. This kind of presence isn't built by accident. It requires strength. It requires patience. It requires emotional control when the world and even women try to pull you into weakness. A rare man is a man who can stand in silence and still command respect. A rare man is a man who can walk away when his boundaries are crossed. A rare man is a man who knows he is the prize. And here's the crazy part. Women may not admit this out loud, but they feel it deeply. Their attraction doesn't peak when you give them everything. It peaks when you give them something to fight for, something to earn, something they can't just snap their fingers and claim. So let me ask you this. Will you continue being like the majority of men, common, replaceable, and forgotten? Or will you choose to step into the shoes of the rare man? The man who commands desire not by force, but by simply being untouchable in his value. Because if you decide to walk this path, you'll discover the secret most men never learn in their lifetime. It's not about chasing her, it's about becoming so rare she never stops chasing you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how so many men become trapped by one single mistake? They live for approval. Every text they send, every word they speak, every action they take, it all has one goal. Will she like me more if I do this? But here's the brutal truth. When you live for her approval, you kill her attraction. Why? Because approval seeking is the language of weakness. A man who is always chasing her smile, her validation, her nod of acceptance, is silently telling her, I'm not enough as I am. Think about it. If you constantly need someone to clap for you before you believe in yourself, you've already surrendered your power. And women, whether they say it or not, can feel this energy instantly. It's almost like radar. They sense desperation in the smallest details. The pause before you text back, the eagerness in your tone, the need in your eyes. But let me flip this for you, because here's the part no one teaches you. When you stop needing her approval, something magical happens. You become unpredictable. You become mysterious. You become a man who moves on his own terms. Suddenly, she can't read you anymore, and that makes her chase. Do you know why? Because attraction thrives on uncertainty. If she always knows you'll bend for her, you're no longer exciting. You're just safe, predictable, ordinary. But when you show her through your actions that you don't need her approval to breathe, that your happiness doesn't depend on her response, she feels a deep, almost uncontrollable pull toward you. And here's the practical takeaway. Stop over-explaining yourself. A man who explains every decision is really begging for reassurance. Stop rushing to reply to every text. When you do, you signal that your time isn't valuable. Stop over-giving compliments. They lose value when they're thrown out too easily. Instead, speak less but mean more. Move slower but with intention. Show her without words that your world doesn't collapse if she disagrees, disapproves, or even walks away. Because the man who doesn't crumble under her silence is the man she can't stop thinking about. So I'll ask you this: do you want to keep living in the exhausting prison of needing approval, or are you ready to finally step into the freedom of not caring whether she claps for you or not? The silent strength of boundaries. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some men seem to be respected without even trying, while others keep giving and giving, yet end up ignored, overlooked, or even disrespected? Why does this happen? The answer lies in one powerful word: boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about pushing people away or being cold. Instead, boundaries are lines of self-respect that tell the world how you expect to be treated. They are silent rules that communicate your value without you ever having to raise your voice. And here's the truth most men never learn. Women are deeply attracted to men who know how to set and enforce them. Think about it. A man with no boundaries will accept disrespect, tolerate games, and allow his time, energy, and emotions to be drained. He bends to please, thinking it will make her love him more. But in reality, every time he breaks his own rules just to gain her approval, she loses respect for him. Why? Because if you don't respect yourself, how can anyone else respect you? Now compare that with a man who lives by his boundaries. He doesn't allow endless texting games. He doesn't drop his entire life to chase a woman who cancels on him last minute. He doesn't allow disrespect in tone, words, or actions. He doesn't have to argue or prove himself. He simply walks away when a line is crossed. That calm strength, that unshakable self-respect, makes him magnetic. Women see it, feel it, and are drawn to it. But here's where the real power comes in. Boundaries aren't just about women. They're about every part of your life. They protect your time so you can focus on your goals. They protect your energy so you don't burn out giving to people who don't deserve it. They protect your peace so you stay calm, centered, and in control, no matter what chaos is happening around you. When a woman sees that you have boundaries, it tells her something deep about you, that you are a man who cannot be controlled, manipulated, or played with. It shows her that you live by principle, not by desperation, and that makes you rare, that makes you valuable, that makes you the kind of man she has to work for, instead of the other way around. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been letting people cross lines that should never be crossed? Where have you been saying yes when you should have said no? And most importantly, how much stronger, calmer, and more respected would you be if you held those boundaries like a man who knows his worth? Because here's the truth, women don't fall for the man who gives them everything. They fall for the man who respects himself enough to protect his energy and makes her earn her place in his life. Now let me ask you, would you like me to take you even deeper into another hidden pillar of attraction that most men overlook, one that makes women chase you without you ever lifting a finger? Mastering emotional control in a world that thrives on chaos. Let me ask you something powerful. Have you ever noticed how most people lose themselves at the very first spark of conflict or pressure? They raise their voices, they panic, they get dragged into drama that only weakens them. But here's the truth. If you can keep your emotions calm, if you can remain steady when the world tries to shake you, you immediately stand out as rare, valuable, and untouchable. Emotional control is not about suppressing your feelings. No, it's about mastering them. It's about being the man who can feel anger, but not let anger speak for him. It's about feeling disappointment, but not letting disappointment destroy his focus. When you train yourself to stay calm under pressure, you send out a message stronger than words: I cannot be moved. Think about it. Women are naturally drawn to men who can remain calm when others crumble. Why? Because chaos is everywhere in life, and she's not just looking for a man to laugh with, she's looking for a man who can protect her peace, who can stand like a mountain when storms come. The man who is unshaken becomes the man she respects, and respect always comes before desire. Most men try to prove themselves with loud words, flashy gestures, or desperate chasing, but a man who owns his emotions does not need to shout. His silence alone speaks power. His calm gaze says, I am in control, I know who I am, I don't need to react to prove it. This is how you become magnetic, because while other men lose themselves, you remain unshakable. Here's where the value comes in. Once you master emotional control, you also master decision-making. Think about it. How many bad choices have men made just because they were angry, needy, or desperate in the moment? But when you slow down, when you breathe, when you respond instead of react, you rise above the average man instantly. This doesn't just apply in relationships. It applies in business, in life, in friendships, in every single battle you face. The man who controls himself cannot be controlled by others. That's why Stoics, warriors, and kings throughout history trained not just their bodies but their minds. Because if your emotions control you, the world controls you. But if you control your emotions, the world bends to your rhythm. Now think about this. What happens when a woman sees you in moments of tension? Imagine she sees other men panic, argue, or beg, and then she sees you, calm, focused, in control. Who do you think she will value more? Who do you think she will trust with her heart, her mind, even her future? It's the man who doesn't let storms shake him. That's the beauty of emotional control. It's rare, and because it's rare, it makes you rare. When you can be calm in chaos, silent in temptation, steady in conflict, you become the kind of man people admire, women desire, and the world respects. The untouchable energy of mystery. Have you ever noticed how the unknown always sparks the strongest curiosity? When something is clear, open, and fully available, people glance at it once and move on. But when something feels hidden, hard to read, or slightly out of reach, it captures their attention and they can't stop thinking about it. This same principle applies to attraction. When a man becomes mysterious, not by playing childish games, but by genuinely living a life that no one fully understands, he develops a magnetic pull. A woman begins to ask herself, what does he do when he's not with me? What thoughts live in his head? Why doesn't he reveal everything about himself? These questions create emotional tension, and tension, when handled correctly, breeds desire. Mystery is not about lying, hiding, or creating fake stories. No true mystery is born from depth. It's when your life is layered, filled with purpose, passions, and experiences that are not all put on display for the world. Most men overshare. They talk too much, reveal too soon, and explain every detail, hoping it will make them more appealing. But the truth? It makes them predictable, and predictability kills excitement. Think about it. The most powerful characters in history, fiction, and even in daily life are never the ones who give everything away at once. They keep people guessing. They share just enough to spark curiosity, but leave enough unspoken to create anticipation. And anticipation is one of the strongest emotional triggers for attraction. When a man is mysterious, he controls the rhythm of the connection. He doesn't need to respond instantly to every message. He doesn't feel the need to explain where he was every second of the day. He doesn't announce every plan, every thought, or every dream. Instead, he reveals little pieces at the right time, like puzzle pieces that slowly form a bigger picture. This makes a woman lean in, wanting more, chasing the full story. But here's the secret: mystery only works when it's backed by substance. If a man is empty inside, no passions, no discipline, no goals, then his mystery is just silence. True mystery is not about holding back because you have nothing. It's about holding back because you have so much, so many layers, so much depth, so much that cannot be captured in one conversation, one date, or even one relationship. This is why the mysterious man always feels rare. He is not putting on a performance, he is not hiding, he is simply living deeply, and his life itself becomes the riddle she wants to solve. So ask yourself, are you the man who spills everything on the table the moment someone asks? Or are you the man who speaks with intention, reveals with patience, and leaves people feeling like they only know a fraction of the story? Because here's the truth. If a woman feels like she's already figured you out in 1 week, she will move on to the next challenge. But if she feels like each day with you uncovers something new, she will invest, pursue, and crave more of you. Mystery is not just attractive, it's addictive. And when you embody it, you stop chasing women because they are too busy chasing the answer to the question, who is he really? The silent weight of choices. Every man faces a moment where silence is louder than words, where a single choice made quietly carries more weight than endless explanations. This is the hidden power most men ignore, the discipline of making firm decisions without asking for approval. Women are deeply attracted to a man who chooses with clarity, who does not hesitate, who does not wait for her to validate his actions. Why? Because certainty is rare. Most people live in doubt, second-guessing themselves, and drowning in the opinions of others. But when a man moves forward with stillness and resolve, he becomes magnetic. Think of it like this: if you sit across from her at dinner and say, "I don't know, what do you want to eat?" you've already lowered your presence. But if you calmly say, "We'll go here, I think you'll like it," you have just demonstrated quiet leadership. That doesn't mean controlling her, but guiding with confidence, and guidance makes her feel safe, desired, and drawn in. This is not about being loud, forceful, or aggressive. In fact, the most powerful choices are made with composure. A man who has to raise his voice or argue for his decision has already lost the battle. True power is when you don't need to convince. Your energy itself shows you mean what you say. Every time you hesitate, you create cracks in her trust. Every time you doubt yourself, you weaken her attraction. But when you decide, even if it's a small matter, you stand as a man she can rely on. That reliability, that steadiness, is what makes her lean closer without even realizing why. So here's the truth. Your choices are not small. They echo, they shape how she sees you, whether she feels drawn to you or whether she questions you. The power of unpredictability. Have you ever noticed how predictable men often get overlooked while the mysterious ones seem to always spark curiosity? That's because predictability kills excitement, while unpredictability breathes life into attraction. When a woman knows exactly what you'll say, what you'll do, and how you'll react, her mind gets bored. Humans are wired to crave novelty. Our brains light up when something feels unexpected, surprising, or just slightly out of reach. That's why high-value men understand the importance of being unpredictable in the right way. This doesn't mean being random or childish, it means keeping her on her toes. Instead of always replying instantly, sometimes you take your time. Instead of always saying yes, sometimes you say no. Instead of doing the same date nights, you switch it up with something different. You create a pattern that has no clear pattern, which keeps her attention glued to you. Unpredictability works because it keeps her guessing, and when she's guessing, she's investing. Her thoughts keep circling back to you. She wonders what you're doing, what you're thinking, and when she'll hear from you again. This mental loop is powerful. It creates a magnetic pull that no amount of chasing could ever match. The best part? You don't even have to try hard. You just need to live your life in a way that isn't always centered around her. Your focus on your own world, your work, your growth, your passions naturally makes you less predictable because you're not available on demand. Women respect and crave this because it forces them to lean in. It creates tension, and tension creates desire. If everything is predictable, she relaxes into comfort. But when you sprinkle in just the right dose of mystery, she leans forward, trying to figure you out. And that's exactly where you want her working for your attention, instead of you working for hers. The Stoic secret of silence. Here's something most men never realize. Silence is one of the most powerful weapons a man can use. Not the silence that comes from weakness, not the silence of fear, but the silence of mastery. Think about this. When everyone else rushes to speak, the man who can sit in silence creates mystery. When everyone else over-explains, the man who holds back his words gains leverage. When everyone else reacts emotionally, the man who remains silent shows control. Silence is not emptiness, it's pressure. It forces the other person to fill the space. It makes her wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're feeling, and because she cannot read you, her mind begins to chase you. That's how attraction works. It's built on curiosity. A man who talks too much loses power. He gives away his thoughts, his plans, his emotions for free. But the man who speaks less, and only when necessary, trains others to value his words. His voice carries more weight because it is rare. His presence feels heavier because it doesn't need noise to be noticed. Even in conflict, silence can be stronger than arguments. When she expects you to explode but you remain calm, collected, and unshaken, she feels your strength in a way words could never deliver. That is the Stoic secret. Your restraint becomes your dominance. But here's the deeper truth. Silence is not just for others, it's for you. It gives you space to think before reacting. It creates room for clarity, for wisdom, for perspective. Silence is the tool that helps you master yourself first, so that you never become a slave to emotion or impulse. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, the man who can be silent is not invisible, he is unforgettable. The silent power of non-reactivity. Here's something most men never realize. Women pay more attention to how you react than to what you say. Think about it. When something happens, whether it's good, bad, or frustrating, your reaction reveals more about your inner strength than any speech could. A man who overreacts to small things shows that his emotions control him. He gets angry when she takes too long to reply. He becomes jealous when she talks to another man. He sulks when things don't go his way. In her mind, this makes him predictable, weak, and easy to manipulate. But the man who practices non-reactivity sends an entirely different message. He shows that nothing outside of him has the power to shake him. If she tests him, he stays calm. If life throws challenges at him, he handles them without losing control. If she tries to spark drama, he refuses to fuel it. This isn't about ignoring her, it's about refusing to let your emotions be dictated by her behavior. That's what women secretly crave, a man who cannot be thrown off balance, no matter what. Because deep down, that man represents stability, security, and strength. When you don't react instantly, you give yourself time to choose your response. You show that you are deliberate, not impulsive. And that subtle discipline is what separates boys from men. In fact, your silence in key moments can be more powerful than any words. When you don't defend yourself against every little jab, when you don't argue over every disagreement, when you don't panic because she's distant, she feels your calm presence. And that calmness creates attraction because it shows you are rare. Remember, women live in emotions. They are used to men drowning in them too. But when she sees a man who can stand still like a mountain while storms pass, she knows he is different. And in her mind, different always means valuable. So ask yourself, are you a man who reacts instantly to every push and pull, or are you the man who pauses, breathes, and answers life with calm strength? When saying less makes you more, let me leave you with something powerful. something most men never understand. It's not always about what you say to a woman. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all. Think about it. Most men try to win women over with constant talking. They flood the air with jokes, stories, compliments, and promises. They think the more words they throw, the more attraction they create. But here's the truth: words without weight lose value. If you talk too much, you train her to take your voice for granted. If you explain yourself all the time, you teach her that you need her approval. If you fill every silence, you show her that you can't sit in your own presence. But a man who knows how to use silence, that man is dangerous, because silence makes her think. Silence forces her to wonder. Silence shifts the attention back onto her. When you pause before answering, it shows patience and control. When you don't over-explain, it shows confidence in your choices. When you walk away without saying a word, it shows strength beyond argument. You see, silence is not empty. Silence is presence. Silence is pressure. Silence is power. The high-value man doesn't argue. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase with words. He lets his actions speak. He lets her imagination do the work. And the less he says, the more meaning his words carry when he finally speaks. So here's the lesson. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't explain what doesn't need to be explained. Don't waste words trying to prove your worth. Instead, let her feel the weight of your pauses. Let her wonder what you're thinking. Let her earn the right to hear your voice. Because the man who masters silence doesn't just hold a woman's attention, he holds her respect. He becomes unforgettable.